Have you ever wondered why your grandfather's old pickup is still running after half a century while your modern car needs constant repairs? What if I told you that some trucks were built so tough, so over-engineered, that they've become practically immortal? We're talking about engines that laugh at 300,000 miles. Engines that mechanics describe as bulletproof. Today, we're counting down 10 classic trucks with engines that truly last forever. And trust me, number one on this list has an engine so legendary, it's still being used in military vehicles today. Before we dive in, hit that like button if you've ever owned a truck that just wouldn't die, and subscribe for more automotive content. Number 10, 1994 to 2004 Chevrolet S10 with the 4.3-liter Vortec V6.
The Chevrolet value. At Chevrolet, this is ours. The Chevy S10 Tahoe.
The Chevrolet S10 might not look like much. It's a compact pickup that was everywhere in the 90s. But under that modest hood lived an engine that would become legendary for all the right reasons. The 4.3-liter Vortec V6. This wasn't some fancy high-tech power plant, it was old-school simplicity at its finest, and that's exactly why it lasted forever. General Motors took their proven small-block V8 design and basically chopped off 2 cylinders. Sounds crude, right? But that simplicity was genius. The Vortec 4.3 shared tons of parts with the V8, meaning parts were cheap and everywhere. Mechanics already knew how to work on it, and the design had decades of refinement behind it. These engines regularly hit 300,000 miles without major work. Some owners report 400,000, even 500,000 miles. The secret? Overbuilt internals. GM didn't cut corners here. The block was cast iron, tough as nails. The heads were designed for longevity over peak performance. And the fuel injection system, while not the most sophisticated, was dead reliable. But here's what really made these engines special. They had just enough power for a compact truck, but weren't stressed doing it. 165 horsepower doesn't sound like much today, but it was perfect for the S10 size. The engine never had to work hard, which meant less wear, less heat, less stress on components. Maintenance was laughably simple too. Oil changes, spark plugs, maybe a water pump every 100,000 miles. That's it. No complex variable valve timing. No turbochargers to fail. No direct injection systems to gum up. Just a straightforward pushrod V6 that did its job day after day, year after year. The 4.3 Vortec became so trusted that GM kept making versions of it for 20 years. Fleet operators loved them, contractors swore by them, and regular folks discovered they'd bought a truck that might outlive them. Sure, the rest of the S10 might rust away, but that engine would keep running. In junkyards today, you'll find S10s with rotted frames and blown transmissions, but pop the hood and that Vortec is probably still good to go. That's the mark of an engine built to last forever. Number 9, 1983 to 1994 Ford Ranger with the 2.3-liter Lima 4-cylinder Ford's Lima engine.
Ford Ranger, now available with a 160 horsepower engine.
Lima engine might have the most boring name in automotive history, but what it lacked in excitement it made up for in sheer stubbornness. This 2.3-liter 4-cylinder refused to die, and in the first-generation Ford Ranger, it created a combination that defined reliable transportation for an entire generation. The Lima wasn't powerful, it wasn't smooth, it wasn't refined. With just 88 horsepower in early versions, it was barely adequate. But Ford built this engine like a tractor motor, and that's exactly what small truck buyers needed. The block was cast iron, heavy, and overbuilt. The head was simple, with a basic overhead cam design that had few failure points. What made the Lima special was its tolerance for abuse. These engines could run low on oil and survive. They could overheat and keep going. They could go 50,000 miles between tune-ups and not complain. One Ford engineer later admitted they'd accidentally over-engineered it. The bearing surfaces were larger than necessary. The cooling passages were generous. Everything was just a bit tougher than it needed to be. Rangers with the Lima engine became the darlings of fleet operators. Utility companies bought them by the thousand. Why? Because they could idle for hours without problems. They could haul moderate loads day after day without breaking. And when something did wear out, parts cost almost nothing. A water pump was $30. A timing belt was a Saturday afternoon job. The real testament to the Lima's durability came from the used market. 20-year-old Rangers with 300,000 miles were still selling for decent money. Why? Because buyers knew that engine had another 100,000 miles left in it. Maybe more. The body might be dented, the interior might be trashed, but that Lima would fire up every morning. Ford eventually replaced the Lima with more modern engines. But ask any old-school Ranger owner and they'll tell you the newer engines never matched the Lima's reliability. Sure, they were more powerful, more refined, more efficient, but they couldn't match that simple ability to just keep running forever. In developing countries, Lima-powered Rangers are still working trucks today, 40 years old and still earning their keep. That's the ultimate proof of an engine that lasts forever. Number 8, 1973 to 1987, Chevrolet CK Series with the 350 small block V8. When people talk about engines that last forever, the Chevrolet 350 small block is usually the first one mentioned. And for good reason. This engine didn't just power trucks, it powered an entire generation of American vehicles. But in the square body CK pickups, it found its perfect home. These trucks were simple, tough, and built to work, and that 350 was their perfect partner. The magic of the 350 wasn't any one thing, it was the combination of proven design, massive parts availability, and simplicity. Chevrolet had been refining this engine since 1955. By the 70s, they'd worked out every bug, solved every problem. What remained was an engine so reliable it became the default choice for everything from trucks to boats. In the CK trucks, the 350 made between 160 and 210 horsepower, depending on the year. Not earth-shattering numbers, but torque was plentiful, and that's what trucks need. More importantly, the engine was understressed. It could pull heavy loads without straining. It could idle all day without overheating. It could take neglect and keep running. The small block's design was elegantly simple. Pushrod valve actuation meant no complex overhead cams. The distributor was easily accessible. Everything that might need service was right there, easy to reach. A shade tree mechanic could rebuild one in their garage with basic tools. Try that with a modern engine. But here's what really made these engines legendary: parts. You could walk into any auto parts store in America and find whatever you needed. Water pump, 20 different brands on the shelf, gaskets, take your pick. Even major components like heads or cranks were readily available and affordable. This wasn't just about initial reliability, it was about keeping the engine running forever. Stories of million-mile 350s aren't urban legends. They're documented fact. Trucking companies ran them in delivery vehicles until the frames fell apart. Farmers used them in work trucks for decades, and when one finally wore out, which took serious effort, rebuilding was so cheap it made more sense than buying new. The 350 small block in those square-body trucks represented peak American engine design, not because it was advanced, because it was perfected. 40 years later, these engines are still running, still working, still refusing to quit. That's forever. Number 7, 1999 to 2006 GMC Sierra with a 6.0-liter Vortec V8.
Step up to the full-size GMC Sierra pickup. Why fool around with a compact import?
GM's 6.0-liter. Vortec might be the most underappreciated engine in truck history. It lived in the shadow of the famous 5.3 and 6.2 variants, but truckers who needed absolute reliability above all else knew the secret. The 6-liter was the sweet spot. Big enough for serious work, simple enough to run forever. This engine, known internally as the LQ4, was essentially a destroked 6.2. That might sound like a compromise, but it was actually brilliant. The shorter stroke meant less piston speed, less stress on the rotating assembly. Combined with the same tough iron block as its bigger brother, you got an engine that was practically overbuilt for its output: 300 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque. Those were the magic numbers. Enough to tow heavy trailers, enough to haul serious loads, but not so much that the engine was stressed. GM used this formula in everything from pickup trucks to delivery vans to school buses. Why? Because it just worked. The 6-liter Vortec had another advantage. It was part of GM's LS engine family, which meant it benefited from modern technology while keeping things relatively simple. Sequential fuel injection provided good power and efficiency. The aluminum head saved weight while providing excellent cooling. But there were no complex variable valve timing systems, no cylinder deactivation to fail. Fleet operators discovered these engines could run for 500,000 miles with just basic maintenance. Taxi companies using suburban SUVs reported even higher mileage. The secret was consistency. The 6-liter didn't make peak power, but it made good power everywhere. It didn't rev high, but it didn't need to. It just churned out reliable power hour after hour, year after year. What really cemented the 6-liter's reputation was its use in work trucks. These weren't pampered personal vehicles. They were commercial trucks that worked hard every single day, plowing snow, hauling equipment, towing trailers, and they just kept going. When something did break, parts were everywhere and affordable. The aftermarket embraced these engines, meaning upgrades and replacements were always available. Today, high-mileage 6.0 Sierras command premium prices. Buyers know what they're getting, an engine that's proven, reliable, and capable of running essentially forever with basic care. In the world of modern truck engines, that's increasingly rare. Number 6, 1981 to 1993. Dodge Ram with a 5.2-liter Magnum V8.
The Dodge Ram Quadcat. It's got 4 doors, a choice of 4 powerful engines.
Dodge's 5.2 Magnum V8 flew under the radar for years. While everyone talked about Cummins diesels and Hemi power, this modest small block quietly earned a reputation for being absolutely indestructible. In the first-generation Dodge Ram, it created one of the most reliable truck combinations ever built. The 5.2 started life as Chrysler's LA Series 318, an engine design dating back to the 60s. But the Magnum version received significant updates, better heads, improved fuel injection, stronger internals. The result was an engine that combined old-school durability with modern reliability. It was the best of both worlds. Power output was modest, around 230 horses and 300 pound-feet of torque. But Dodge tuned this engine for longevity, not magazine racing. The camshaft was mild, keeping valve train stress low. The compression ratio was conservative, allowing it to run on regular gas without knocking. Everything was designed to last. What really set the 5.2 apart was its bottom-end strength. Dodge used a forged steel crankshaft in many versions, something usually reserved for high-performance engines. The main bearings were oversized. The connecting rods were beefy. This was an engine built like a diesel, but with gas engine simplicity. Maintenance requirements were minimal. Change the oil, replace the spark plugs occasionally, maybe a water pump every 150,000 miles. That was it. No timing belts to worry about, no complex sensors to fail. The fuel injection was reliable multiport, not the finicky throttle body systems others were using. Real-world durability stories became legendary. Contractors ran these trucks for decades. One documented case showed a work truck with 700,000 miles, still on the original engine. The transmission had been rebuilt twice, the body was held together with Bondo, but that 5.2 just kept running. It had never been opened up, never been rebuilt, just maintained. The 5.2 Magnum proved you didn't need the biggest engine to have the toughest engine. In fact, its smaller displacement meant less stress, less heat, less wear. While others chased horsepower numbers, Dodge quietly built an engine that would outlast them all. Today, finding a running 5.2 is easy. Finding one that needs major work is the real challenge. Number 5, 1995 to 2004. Toyota Tacoma with the 2.7-liter 3RZ FE 4-cylinder. Toyota's reputation for reliability reached legendary status with the 3RZ FE engine. This 2.7-liter 4-cylinder wasn't trying to win any performance awards. It was trying to run forever, and in the first-generation Tacoma, it succeeded beyond anyone's wildest expectations. The 3RZ FE produced just 150 horsepower. In a truck, that's not much, but Toyota engineers had different priorities. They wanted an engine that could survive neglect, abuse, and extreme conditions. They wanted an engine that would start every morning for decades. They succeeded. The design was almost aggressively simple. Dual overhead cams, yes, but with chain drive instead of belts. No variable valve timing, no turbocharging, just a straightforward 4-cylinder with port fuel injection. Every component was overbuilt. The block was iron, thick, and strong. The internals were forged where it mattered. The cooling system was oversized, but the real secret was Toyota's manufacturing precision. Tolerances were incredibly tight. Quality control was obsessive. Every engine was built like it was going into a Lexus. This attention to detail meant these engines didn't wear out like others. At 200,000 miles, compression was still strong. Oil consumption was minimal. The 3RZ FE became famous in the overlanding community. These were people who drove their trucks to the ends of the earth, places where a breakdown meant serious trouble. They chose Tacomas with the 2.7 because they knew it would get them home. Always. No matter what, maintenance was almost insulting in its simplicity. Oil changes, air filters, coolant flushes. That timing chain, good for the life of the engine. Fuel injectors, 300,000 miles easy. Water pump, maybe at 200,000, maybe not. Stories emerged of Tacomas used in mining operations running 24/7. Tacomas in developing countries serving as taxis, racking up incredible mileage. Tacomas abandoned for years, starting right up with a fresh battery. The 2.7 wasn't fast, it wasn't powerful, it wasn't exciting, but it represented something increasingly rare, an engine designed from the ground up to last forever. Not as a marketing claim, but as an engineering goal. Toyota achieved that goal. These engines aren't just running after 25 years, they're running like new. That's the difference between lasting a long time and lasting forever. Number 4, 1988 to 1998 Chevrolet K1500 with the 5.7-liter TBI V8
without sacrificing toughness, roominess, payload, or that high level of comfort.
The 5.7-liter V8 with throttle body injection might be the most reliable truck engine General Motors ever built. Bold claim? Maybe. But the evidence is overwhelming. These engines powered millions of trucks through the 90s, and an astonishing number are still running today. Not rebuilt, not restored, just running. The magic was in the combination. Take the proven 350 small block design, add dead simple throttle body fuel injection, and tune it for torque and reliability. The result was an engine that made decent power, delivered excellent fuel economy for its era, and simply refused to wear out. TBI, or throttle body injection, was GM's bridge between carburetors and modern fuel injection. It looked like a carburetor mounted in the same place, but used electronic fuel injectors. Critics called it primitive, but that simplicity was its strength. Fewer sensors meant fewer failure points. The system was easy to diagnose, easy to repair, and incredibly tolerant of poor maintenance. The 5.7 made around 210 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. Not impressive by today's standards, but perfect for a half-ton truck. More importantly, it made that power without stress. The engine loafed along at highway speeds, barely working. Towing was well within its comfort zone. It never felt strained. These engines gained a reputation among fleet operators and contractors. They could idle for hours without problems. They could run on questionable gas. They could go far too long between services and survive. One documented case involved a utility company truck that went 80,000 miles between oil changes. The engine survived. Try that with any modern engine. Parts availability helped cement the legend. Every parts store had TBI components. Injectors were cheap and easy to change. The distributor cap and rotor were 5-minute jobs. Even major repairs were straightforward. A competent mechanic could rebuild the entire top end in a weekend. But the real proof came from the used market. 20-year-old K1500s with 300,000 miles commanded strong prices. Buyers knew that 5.7 probably had another 100,000 miles in it, maybe 200,000. The TBI system might need some attention, but the basic engine was bulletproof. Today, these trucks are becoming classics, and that 5.7 TBI is a big reason why. It represents peak simplicity in fuel injection, peak reliability in V8 design. In an era of complex engines that need special tools just for an oil change, the 5.7 TBI reminds us that sometimes simpler really is better. Forever better. Number 3, 1989 to 1993, Ford F-Series with the 7.3-liter IDI diesel.
To work on this truck, the F-150 Lightning. They describe it as a...
Before the Power Stroke became famous, there was the 7.3 IDI. International Harvester built this indirect injection diesel like a piece of farm equipment, and that's exactly why it lasted forever. In Ford's F-Series trucks, it created a combination that defined diesel reliability for a generation. The IDI was not a powerhouse. Early versions made just 180 horsepower. Even the later turbocharged versions only managed 190. But horsepower was never the point. This engine was about torque, efficiency, and absolute reliability. It delivered all three in spades. International Harvester knew diesel engines. They'd been building them for decades. The 7.3 IDI used that knowledge. The block was cast iron, massively thick. The heads were simple, with pre-combustion chambers that made the engine quieter and smoother than direct injection diesels. Everything was overbuilt. What made the IDI special was its mechanical simplicity. No computers, no electronic controls, just a mechanical injection pump and mechanical injectors. If it had fuel and compression, it would run. This simplicity meant there was very little to go wrong. And when something did fail, any diesel mechanic could fix it. These engines regularly hit 400,000 miles without major work. 500,000 was common. Some documented examples exceeded 700,000 miles. The secret was the under-stress design. The IDI wasn't making big power, so components lasted. Bearing surfaces stayed healthy. Cylinder walls showed minimal wear even after decades. Maintenance was straightforward. Change the oil religiously. Replace the fuel filter regularly. Keep the cooling system clean. That was about it. No complex emissions equipment, no diesel particulate filters, no DEF fluid. Just a mechanical diesel doing what mechanical diesels do best, running forever. The IDI gained a cult following among those who needed absolute reliability. Farmers loved them. Construction companies swore by them. Anyone who needed a truck that would start every morning, no matter what, chose the 7.3 IDI. Parts availability remains excellent even today. Injection pumps can be rebuilt. Injectors are still manufactured. Everything needed to keep these engines running is available and affordable. The 7.3 IDI represents the last of the purely mechanical diesels in pickup trucks. After this, everything went electronic. More powerful, yes. More efficient, certainly, but not more reliable. For pure, simple, run-forever durability, the IDI remains unmatched. These engines aren't just still running, they're still working, still earning their keep, still refusing to quit. That's the mark of an engine truly built to last forever. Number 2, 1972 to 1993. Dodge D-Series Ram with a 5.9-liter Cummins 6BT diesel.
Good for hauling loads back there and pampering people up here. The Dodge pickup.
The Cummins 6BT diesel changed everything. When Dodge dropped this inline 6 diesel into their trucks in 1989, they created a legend. But here's the thing, Cummins had been building this engine since the 70s for industrial applications. It was already proven to last forever. Dodge just let regular people in on the secret. The 6BT was built like no pickup truck engine before it. This was an industrial engine designed for generators, boats, and heavy equipment. It just happened to fit in a pickup truck. The block was cast iron, absurdly thick. The crankshaft was forged steel, massive and indestructible. Everything was overbuilt by pickup standards. Early versions made just 160 horsepower, but torque was 400 pound-feet and it came on low. This engine was about pulling power, not acceleration. It could tow massive loads without breaking a sweat. More importantly, it could do it every day for decades without wearing out. The mechanical Bosch P7100 injection pump became legendary in its own right. Simple, reliable, and capable of serious power with minor modifications. No computers, no sensors, just precision mechanical components. If you had fuel and air, this engine would run. Period. What really set the 6BT apart was its million-mile capability. This wasn't marketing hype. Cummins actually had a million-mile club. Documented examples of trucks exceeding 1,000,000 miles on the original engine. No rebuilds, just maintenance. Try finding that claim from any other manufacturer. The engine simplicity was beautiful. Inline 6 configuration meant perfect primary balance. No complex V-angle issues. The gear-driven camshaft eliminated timing chain problems. The 12-valve head was straightforward and reliable. Everything was accessible for service. These engines became the choice for serious towers. Horse trailers, fifth wheels, heavy equipment. The 6BT handled it all without complaint. Fuel economy was exceptional too. 25 miles per gallon was possible, even in a heavy truck. The industrial heritage showed everywhere. This engine could idle for days without problems. It could run at full load continuously. It could survive poor maintenance, bad fuel, extreme temperatures. Nothing fazed it. Today, first-generation Cummins trucks command premium prices. A clean example with the 6BT can cost more than a newer truck. Buyers know they're getting an engine that's just broken in at 300,000 miles. The Cummins 6BT proved that diesel engines could be the ultimate answer for longevity. It set a standard that manufacturers are still trying to match, but 30 years later, nothing has matched the simple reliability of that mechanical inline 6. It truly is an engine that lasts forever. Number 1, 1967 to 1991 Ford F-Series with the 300 cubic inch inline 6.
Drop this 78 Ford pickup straight down in a free fall to show you how tough it's built.
Here it is, the king, the emperor, the undisputed champion of engines that last forever. Ford's 300 cubic inch inline 6 isn't just reliable, it's immortal. This engine has achieved mythical status, and every bit of that reputation is earned. In Ford trucks, it created a combination that defined the word indestructible. The 306, as it's commonly known, started life in 1965. Ford designed it for one thing above all else: durability. They succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. This engine wasn't sophisticated. It wasn't powerful by modern standards. It was just impossibly, incredibly, unbelievably tough. The design was simple to the point of being primitive. Inline 6 configuration, pushrod valve actuation, a carburetor, later throttle body injection. That's it. No overhead cams, no variable timing, no turbochargers, just a long-stroke, big displacement 6-cylinder that produced torque from idle to redline. But the real secret was in the construction. Ford built this engine like a piece of industrial equipment. The block was cast iron, with walls so thick you could bore it out multiple times. The crankshaft had 7 main bearings. Most 6s only had 4. The connecting rods were massive. Everything was overbuilt to an almost comical degree. Power output varied from 115 to 150 horsepower. But torquey was the story: 260 pound-feet available just off idle. This engine didn't need to rev, it just pulled and pulled and pulled forever. The 300 gained fame in commercial applications. UPS ran them in delivery trucks for decades. Utility companies used them in service vehicles. Farmers wouldn't buy anything else. Why? Because these engines simply did not break. Stories became legendary. Engines with 600,000 miles never opened. Engines that ran without oil until they seized, then ran again after adding oil. Engines pulled from junkyards after decades, firing right up. One documented case involved a utility company truck with 1.2 million miles. Original engine, never rebuilt, still running perfectly. Another involved a farm truck that hadn't had an oil change in 7 years. Still running. These aren't myths, they're documented facts. The 300 inline 6 became so legendary that Ford kept making versions of it for industrial use long after it left pickup trucks. It's still used today in certain military vehicles. Why? Because when you absolutely, positively need an engine that will run forever, nothing beats the Ford 300. Parts are still everywhere. You can build one from scratch with aftermarket components. Rebuilding is so simple, high school auto shops use them for teaching. But here's the thing, they rarely need rebuilding. These engines just keep going. The Ford 300 inline 6 represents the absolute pinnacle of mechanical simplicity and durability. It's proof that with the right design and construction, an engine can truly last forever. Not as hyperbole, not as marketing, as fact. It's the greatest truck engine ever built for longevity, and nothing else even comes close. And there you have it, that's 10 classic trucks with engines that truly last forever. Every one of these power plants has proven itself over decades of hard use. Which one would you trust to take you across the country and back? Or better yet, which legendary engine did we miss? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you know someone still driving one of these indestructible trucks, share this video with them. They've earned the bragging rights. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more content about the vehicles that built America. Thanks for watching, and remember, they really don't make them like they used to.